We're very hoi to introduce our next keynote speaker. He'll be talking about the trajectory of Indigenous innovation and how his company is expanding markets and creating new sectors through the use of Indigenous practices in modern applications. He is the CEO and founder of Nikora, Ngaropo Motion Design and an MD and Young Animators in New Zealand, Aotearoa. Please, we humbly ask you to welcome him with your aloha. Pa'i lima kākou for Nikora, Ngaropo.
Nei rā te mihi kia koutou katoa, I tēnei ahiahi, ka nui te mihi kia koutou. E te tangata whenua, te iwi kāinga, ngā kanaka maoli, ka nui te mihi kia koutou. Just wanted to firstly acknowledge our home people here from Hawaii. Thank you so much for having me and giving me your good graces this afternoon. So kia ora. There's no sound. Oh, okay, good. Ka whakaaro me mawhiti taku haere ki ngā tihi o maunga poatu ki ngā tapu wai o Waikare moana. As I think back to my thoughts of maunga poatu, my sacred mountain, back at home in Waikare moana, ka titiru I hoa hau ko rua tāhuna ka kumau kukore. Te kohanga o te iwi o Ngai Tūhoe, to the birthplace of my iwi Tūhoe, my tribe. Ka whai te keke noi te pai o te whenua ko te whaiti nui a toi ko wai o hau. I noho ia nei taku whānau reha, te mana o mātou whenua. As I followed the contours of the land, through the settlements of te whaiti nui a toi and Waiohau, the family, te whānau reha, settled in these places. E whakarite ana hoki taku hapu, a haku patu hiuhiu e ngā haka whakataitai a toku iwi ko te hui ahure a Ngai Tūhoe tērā. Two groups came together, haka patu hiuhiu and haka whakataitai, and settled to become one iwi, one tribe, Tūhoe. Rere tani whāna I te awa tauranga ko te waimana kāku I konei, e hui ana aku whenua I taku marae a rōrua. As you follow the Tauranga River, where it meets Waimana, you'll find my marae, our ancestral home place, Rāroa. Ka hoki whakamuriaki ki te whārua o Ruatoki, te rua o ngā toki, ka kauhoi au I taku kuia hine mataroa, hai whakapiki I taku wairua, I taku hauora hoki. As I turned to the valley of Ruatoki, my ancestor, Ohine Mataroa, swam across the expanse of one of our rivers to create the wellness and uplift the spirit of her people. Ka tahi ka whake kia atu ki taku kāinga tawarau ki taku hapua Ngāti Rongo, e pōhi mai ana I au ki roto I taku wharenui a Rongo Kārai. She created our ancestral home of Tawarau, where our sub-tribe Ngāti Rongo resides. And as I am welcomed into our ancestral house of Rongo Kārai, ki te reo rōreka o taku wharekai a rangi māhana, ki te kairanga tira hoki I horaina mai e taku whānau, the sweetness of our language resides inside our eating houses and our ancestral homes, where it spreads out for the wellness of our people. Ka mihi ki te tāhuhu ki a haukitai te maunga, ko ngā taumata, ngā pukepuke, ko te ārero whero te koawa, e kōkoia ko te aitanga Tūhoe Pōtiki, ko Nikora Ngaropo ahau. I acknowledge the backbone of Haukitahi, and ngā taumata, my mountains, the summits of our hills, our rivers. These are the rumblings of the descendants of Tūhoe Pōtiki. My name is Nikora Ngaropo, kia ora mai tātou. Cheers. In 2016, I came out of the film industry in New Zealand here. And one of the things that I found is that I had a whole lot of skills in 3D animation. Everything that you saw there was created in Aotearoa. It's my personal work. So you can see that my hands have touched all of these different movies and different shots. But one of the things I found is that when I was coming up into the space, there were very few Māori there. There were very few, like, Polynesians in this space, and I could probably count them on one or two hands. So out of 1,500 people working on a film, there would be maybe 5 or 10 Polynesians in that space, and maybe less than 5 Māori that were working there. For us, what it meant is that our keiki, our kids, our rangatahi, were not seeing ourselves in these jobs, in these roles, and representation matters. All right? I've been fortunate enough to have my mother been in kura kaupapa, so that's total immersion Māori schools, for 35 years, looking at the revitalisation of our language, and so she has been a huge advocate in terms of education for our whānau, for our hana, back in Aotearoa, and I'm lucky enough to be a product of that. But for most of our keiki and rangatahi, that's the exception rather than the rule. In 2016, I looked at, okay, I have a few skills, what can we create, what can we build? And started a program called Young Animators, which was looking at how we bring our young people into these technology spaces through STEM, but using the film industry as a hook. Part of what we do is we head out into rural communities all over Aotearoa, and we take them through a whole process of content creation. So we're talking about our stories, our legends, and then getting them to recontextualize all of that information and putting them into modern day spaces that they can understand and apply as well. So not only do we teach animation, 3D modeling, setting up screens, all of the AV work, green screen stuff that you would see on a normal skill set, we would bring across in, so they're doing the hands-on work and then implementing that into the work that they're doing at school. What we've managed to do, though, is we have a program called Young Animators, and we can take them through a whole process of content creation within the space of 2 days. So that is everything from ideating all the way to finished frames. This is just one of the pieces of work done by our keiki. But this was done by the kids in class in 2 days, so that's them learning the apps, doing the voiceover, editing the story. Very, very simple. But if you understand how much it takes to create anything within that short period of time, it's actually a huge amount of work that's done very, very quickly. I'll scrub through this really quickly, but this was all done in Māori as well. Oh. And part of this...
Legend of Mauao. Ko tērā tētahi puke kore ingoa.
And
E
this
noho
talks
ana i
about
te taha o te ngahere.
the story of two of our mountains coming together.
Puke,
So
e pononga,
in our histories, our
te
mountains
maunga
moved
tipua.
to co-procreate
O tāne wainga.
and to have children as well.
Kopu
And so
whenua, tētahi atu
the
puke o
keiki in
te
this
rohe.
area,
E puke te inoa
this was one of their legends
tāia.
from home there.
Kua kāka
They animated
tia,
everything,
kua
set up the
kāka
scenes,
wā tā.
very basic, but the fact that they could pull it together in such a short time just shows you what's possible. And this is way before AI had come into the picture as well. So with the technology we have now, these things can really change. Now, I wanted to show this. So part of what we do is we head out on the aina in Aotearoa. We can take these kids to all of these places, and we actually do all of the animation out on site as well. They get to walk the places where these stories happened. We have our kapuna out there as well, so it's an intergenerational mix. So our kapuna will tell the stories, tell the history. These kids will go along, they will walk the places and spaces where those things happened. And then we bring them into a space where they can actually animate those as well. So taking education from a classroom out on the aina and reconnecting the two, and then recontextualizing that so that it's applicable for our keiki and our young people today is really important, so that they don't get turned off, and they can bring it into their own space and make it their own as well. Now, I am fortunate enough to have a beautiful Hawaiian partner over here, and one of the things that her and I did while we were starting to look at AI was, if we have this technology now, what are the sorts of things that we can create? And how do we create a space where we're the ones that have the autonomy over those stories and telling our own stories rather than other people telling them for us? Now, one of the things that I'm very aware of in this space is that the technology is moving very quickly. Most of us either don't know that much about it, and there's a lot of fear when we talk about AI as well, but I want you to think about the opportunities that are also in this space. So whether that's the creation of our own mo'olelo, or in our case, pūrākau back in New Zealand, and weaving those things together so that our keiki have the option to take all of those great ideas from inside their heads and start creating for the benefit of our own people. Now, what we've done here is looking at consistent imagery, creating images, but generating them very quick. If I was doing this in 3D, which is my background, I worked for Weta for a very long time, far too long, this type of work would have taken weeks or months. This is generated in about 10 minutes. So that is the difference in terms of what can be created now and the level, the quality level that we're looking at. All right, so there is a massive opportunity for all of us here to be involved in this space, creating in this space, and to own that space which has our own stories in it. When I think about these sorts of things, I'm going to click on these as well, all created using AI. This is actually a famous Māori painting of one of our kuia, our kapuna from home. But there is the opportunity to give them voice, and to put kōrero or all those stories so that they're coming from them. So whether that is from our waiata or songs, or from the things that they said, and all of those sayings and proverbs that they left behind for us as well. Now these things, this was just looking at what could be done with tech as it currently stands. But if I was making this in 3D through a normal traditional process, you're talking months and probably a whole team of people. So for these types of work, it democratizes access. For most of us, the reason why our stories have never been told like this is because we don't have access to the capital, the technical expertise, and the distribution channels. With these types of technology, that can change. There is no reason within 5 years why we cannot have our own content that has all of our beautiful stories there, that is being done in our own languages, that is being fed to our children as they grow up in their own communities. And I think it's one of the things that we should push for in those spaces, is that if we have the ability, why shouldn't we do it? So that's in Young Animators, and that's looking at our journey with the younger ones, so middle school right up to high school. Outside of that, we also created an academy called Toro Academy. This is a pitch that we did for Intergalactic. This is the Kid Cudi story. You might have seen it on Netflix, and if not, go watch it. Now, just as a caveat, we didn't get the contract, but we got down to the last two. And as part of that, we had all of our students touch parts of that process in the pitch. So this is a pitch for Netflix. Our students in this academy, 100% Māori in that space. We've got 95% of them that are working internationally and locally, domestically within organisations, creating content right now. That was a 16-week intensive course. But we managed to get them from people who had no experience, and by I mean, when I say no experience, the closest some of them had come to tech was their phones. Most of them didn't have laptops. Some of them were working at the local landfill and doing different odd jobs. And so this was about changing of job vocation, looking at new skills and looking at new job opportunities that were currently in market. And they got to this kind of area where they could start doing this stuff. This is all 3D made to look 2D. So when we think about anime, it looks like it's hand-drawn. It's all done on the computer. They were able to create these sorts of things, and at the end of 16 weeks, they were developing scenes that look like this. So 16-week timeline from knowing nothing to this was a huge achievement for us and the groups that we were working with. And it kind of leads me into the next step, which is in the last month, we've just received funding from New Zealand On Air, New Zealand Film Commission, and Te Māngai Pāho. These are the main content creation funders in Aotearoa, the government ones, to develop a whole AI content creation pipeline. And so part of that also, thank you. Yeah. Part of that is when we bring together these agencies, they don't usually work together for starters. So that's the first thing to note. Secondly, is that most of these government agencies in Aotearoa, they're aware that these changes are happening. They have no idea what to do about it. They don't know where to start. They don't know what the ethics are that are going to be involved. And so as an entrepreneur, I look for opportunities, but opportunities that align with the work that I'm doing. And so we reached out to them and said, look, we're doing work in this space currently. We would like you to fund us so that we can run fast in this area. So when you guys do work out what's happening in that space, you've got people who understand the technology, understand where it's going, are utilising it in a day-to-day practice that you can come and ask questions of, and we can set up our film industry for success. And I think when we're talking about these types of technologies, it is about opportunity. It is about going out there and being able to realise that it doesn't have to be kept within a certain bubble or space. We can do this with kids in classes. We can do this with our traditional filmmakers and people who have the craft. All of these effects, all of this technology, it means nothing without the stories. And so in this space, part of what we're doing here is bringing together all of our beautiful storytellers, our directors, our writers, and making sure that as things transition, everybody is being taken on the journey as well, and there is a space to build that bridge and do things well, taking the best of both worlds. This is my colleague who's doing all my writing. She's an award-winning producer and filmmaker. I'm the technical lead. And so I sold her on this idea. And the reason I did that is because not only do I want to do this commercially and be able to do projects, I want to be able to do this in classes with our keiki. I want them to be able to use the technology. I want to be able to create beautiful pieces of work that they can stand behind, that they can own, and that can give them voices within the space that they didn't have the opportunity to have beforehand. Okay. Up here, this whole storyboard generated with AI. Okay. So when you're doing these things, you'll have to prompt it and tell it what you want. So there is a process. But if I was to do this manually and have to hire an artist go out, design these things, talk to them. I can work directly with the director. We can get those images built and created. And this is one of our first projects. So we're looking at doing this as a short film piece to validate the model. And so this is based off the land marches that happened in the 70s. This is actually my great-great-grandaunt based on her. Her name was Whina Cooper. And she walked the length of Aotearoa in protest about land confiscation. And so this is just a really short narrative with her and her moko, so her grandchild, walking along the road, and her grandchild asking her, why are we walking? You know, what is the purpose of this? And her telling, relaying that story in language that she understands. Okay. So for me, I'm really interested in collaboration. I think that across the Pacific we have beautiful, rich stories, and I would like to see us create our own universe there for our keiki, telling our stories, weaving in all of those different stories from right across the Pacific. No one person needs to own that. Every story is unique to their own tribe, to their own sub-tribes, to their own people as well. But we're all connected by, you know, Te Moana Nui a Kiwa, you know, this ocean here. So rather than thinking of it as distance, I wanted to think of it as a way that we can connect each other as well. This is a proverb from where I come from. It's iti rearea teitei kahikatea kataia. The rearea is the smallest bird, the bellbird in the forest, and the kahikatea is the largest tree. And what this means is that anything is possible. The smallest bird can rise to the heights of the tallest tree in any forest. And that's my vision for our kids and for our keiki, for our rangatahi, to be able to achieve, to strive, to thrive in these spaces. Kia ora mai tātou.